Alright, so welcome to part 2 of our frequently asked questions video, and it doesn't matter what order you watch them in, honestly. So in our last video, we discussed sexuality and sex and paganism. We discussed can one be Christian and pagan at the same time. I incorporated more of Christian pagan beliefs instead of the literal actual practices. And then how do you ground and center? So that was that video. This video, the first question we have is, how do you protect yourself from dark energies when you work magic? Is that even necessary? I love this question. It's come up many times over the past several years. It depends. Wiccan practice, Wiccans will say you have to cast a circle. Wiccans cast a circle. You don't have to. Because again, it depends on how you want to do it. And I don't honestly understand why my screen is so dark. Alright, so I have to be off center. When you are working magic, if you're doing a circle with just yourself or your group, your coven, your kindred, whatever, if you want to cast a spell, work any kind of big ritual, there is a degree of protection you have to kind of go through. It doesn't matter if it's Samhain or it doesn't matter if it's Beltane, it doesn't matter. Especially Samhain though. Samhain is one of the ones you really should take proactive measures more than the other 7 holidays. But again, you're going to have to take that one as it comes. Now if you're Wiccan, you will most likely cast a literal circle. You know, you'll be standing, you know, these are people standing in a circle, and around that circle of people, somebody or all of them are going to either walk or imagine a circle, a physical circle of protection being cast around them. I used to do this. I used to cast circles. I used to take my wand, which I don't have. I have a pen. I used to walk, and you can point wherever direction you are. If I'm walking, you walk inside the circle, and you have your wand facing out, or whatever you use. And you walk a circle. Sometimes you don't say anything. Sometimes you will say some sort of prayer mantra of protection. And it's all going to depend on you and what you choose to do. Now, since my group and I are not Wiccan, we do something a little differently. We don't walk a circle. We don't make a circle. What we do is we consecrate the ground. Now, we've done this the night before, the day of, as we're getting ready to go. We've done all 3, we've done 1 of each. Now, for Samhain, because it is the night of the year where you want to add a little bit of extra protection to what you're already doing, we consecrated the ritual room at the house, which is we made an incense, we made holy water, we walked around the room. Yeah, we walked in a circle, but then we walked around the middle of the room, sprinkled the incense, flicked the water around, said the chant to consecrate the room. Then the night of, that was the night before, then the day of, we consecrated the whole yard. We walked a circle around the house, we went around the yard, did the same thing, same chant, same incense, holy water. And then that night, we went through and did it again. This was Samhain. Samhain's a special thing. We went back into the room and we re-incensed, holy watered everything. Just to give it that extra oomph. And like I said, we didn't walk a circle. We went around the room in a circle, but then we cut around, we went all around the room, we went around the outside of the house. The difference between the Wiccan circle casting and what we do is that when you cast a circle, the Wiccan style, nobody leaves the circle. Everybody stays in the middle. Nobody crosses the outside barrier unless somebody cuts a door. And then when we do it, you can go in and out. The only thing that can't come onto the yard, come into the house, come into the room is the negative energy. We can walk in and out. There's no barrier for us. It's just a protective bubble. Not even a literal bubble, just a imaginary bubble. It's like you have a dog with the electric collar and they can't leave the yard or else they'll get zapped, but you can leave the yard. You're not wearing the collar. It's kind of like that. You put that electric barrier, that electric fence around your yard, around the room, around the house. You can go in and out. You're not wearing the collar. The negative energy is what's wearing that collar. They can't come in. It all depends on your flavor. If you like the Wiccan way, do the Wiccan way. If you like the way we do it, adapt it. As long as you're protecting yourself to some degree, it doesn't matter how you do it. So that's how you protect yourself. Is protecting yourself necessary? It is. Not all the time, though. If you are just sitting at your altar and you're doing a little spell to help you're suffering from really bad insomnia and you're trying to do a spell to help you sleep at night, you probably don't need to do any sort of real protection on that. You know, if you're doing a little spell or just working a little bit of magic, it would help to acknowledge that you would like protection. Maybe in your mantra, in your opening prayer, however you want to do it, it may be a good idea to acknowledge that you're asking for protection from your spirits, from whoever. You know, even if it's, like if I were going to do a spell, but I don't need, like, to cast a circle of protection, I just want somebody to look out for me, I may ask my spirit guides, I may ask my grandparents. It all depends. But is it a good idea? Yes. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. But if you're going to do a big ritual, like for Samhain especially, Mabon or whatever, even if it's not for holiday, even if you're doing a full moon ritual, anything where you think something could get in, yes, then I would definitely do take some sort of precautions. It doesn't matter how you do it. You could come up with your own way of doing it, as long as you take some sort of, proactive measures. I hope that helps. Oh, and just a note for the dark energies, when we're working magic, I never worry about it. Even on sound, I don't worry about it. Because in my line of work, yes, bad energies exist, negative energies exist. There's gray areas. It can't all be white magic. It can't all be happy and fun. There's some dark energies. There's some pretty nasty things out there. I try not to worry about it. I acknowledge it, but I don't worry about it. Because when you worry about it, you're opening yourself up for that negative energy to affect you. You're giving power to something that you don't want to give power to. So I take the precautions, but I don't worry about it. And God, in the years and years and years, we've been doing magic in this house, and for the years and years and years, everybody else in the group has been doing magic in their own homes or wherever. We've only ever had one sort of issue, and we took care of it in like 10 minutes, and it never bothered us again. But at the same time, if you're worried about spirits, think of the house you're in. Think of the people that live in the house. In this house, in particular in the house I live in, there are 7 of us in this house. All of us, to some degree, are very sensitive to spirit energy. So even if we're just hanging around the house, me and the girl who I share a bedroom with, my friend, one of my sisters, we're terrified of the family room down here. There's a family room in the lower level of the house. We sometimes will inexplicably become terrified of it. We don't want to go in there at night. We're 24-year-old women, and we're like, no, we're good. We can wait for the morning to go get what we left in there. It doesn't mean there's anything evil in there. It doesn't mean there's anything truly negative in there. It's that awareness that there's something in there that shouldn't be in there. Do you know what I mean? So, And even when I've sensed things that I'm not afraid of, it still creeps me out a little bit. Like when I heard a spirit humming Christmas carols the week of Christmas or the week of New Year's in that same family room. And I was like, I'm thinking, I'm not afraid of it, but I don't want it here. It shouldn't be here. It was a very foreign experience. So, not all energies are dark energies. Even if you're a little freaked out by them, it doesn't mean they're dark. Just be aware of that. You don't have to exercise your house every time you're afraid of the dark. Or every time you feel that something has come into your house. If things start going, if things start breaking, or if things really start feeling bad, then do something about it. But until then, dark energies, I don't normally worry about them. In my experience, there's only been a couple of times in 24 years where I was actually kind of freaked out. So, and I'm still alive. I haven't been possessed yet, so. Let's see. Do you practice any type of divination and does it work? Okay. So, divination. Pendulum dowsings, rune readings, tarot readings. There's other forms, but I think those are the big three. I sort of practice all of them. I have a tarot deck, I have a pendulum, I have runes. I'm not great at any of them. I'm also not always drawn. Divination's not my thing. So that's probably why I'm not that great at it. The few times I've done full tarot readings, they've been very to completely accurate. I'm still struggling with my pendulum, but even though my pendulum, I'm still learning it, it's my favorite form of divination. Runes, I'm just not good at. I'm trying to learn the alphabet. But yes, even somebody who's just starting out and just learning divination can be good at it. You're not always going to be accurate, but I think you'll notice. I did a tarot reading for somebody I had just met, didn't know anything about them, and I was able to grab specifics out of the cards. I kind of amazed myself, but it's only happened a couple of times. I'm not in the best practice of it. But yes, divination does work. There are women, it's only honestly been women so far. There have been women that have read tarot spreads for me, and I was like, what? No, that's, you're crazy. Nah, no. Everything happened exactly how she said it would happen, and exactly when she said it would happen. For example, she was able to figure out that I had a disease. This was after I was diagnosed with it. I knew I had it. She did not. She only knew that I wasn't feeling well sometimes. She was able to pull that I had a disease, and that if I wasn't careful I could end up in the hospital, which is true, I could. That's not the part that impressed me. The part that impressed me was when she was able to say, in October, I got the reading in October, she was able to say that I was going to meet somebody in March, April, May, in the springtime, and we were going to click, and that we were going to be, she didn't use the term soulmates, but it was sort of that explanation, that we were going to have a lot in common and that we were going to be together for a long time. And I was like, sure, right, you can really project that 6-7 months ahead. And over the course of the 6-7 months, everything happened like she said it would. I ended up working on the projects she said I would work on before the school year even started. And then in April I started talking to my husband, and then in May we met. And we clicked right away, and I was like, oh my god. That was freaky. But that's just one example. And that's honestly not even the most elaborate, fantastic example. I won't get into it because there's not time. But yeah, divination does work. It's not always going to be 100% accurate. But I think if you have a reading, you're gonna know. You're gonna know because when somebody will project something for you, you can choose whether or not you want it to happen. I did not want to end up in the hospital, so I was very proactive in trying to take care of myself the best that I could, and I never ended up in the hospital. I got sick. My disease is pretty much a pain in the ass, and I did get sick pretty frequently, but I never ended up in the hospital, and I'm really happy about that. So I was really freaked out. I was like, I don't want to end up in the hospital. I'm not going to have insurance for a long time. I don't want anything to happen. I don't want to die. Well, I wasn't going to die. She said, if you don't want this to happen, you have to take this information and change it. So just being made aware that just for example, if I didn't take care of my disease, I would end up in the hospital, and she saw that in the cards. Knowing that is always a possibility, or was a possibility at that time, I did not want that to happen. I changed it. Things are always changing. When somebody reads the cards for you, that's only one scenario. There's many other scenarios. So if there's something that you don't like, work to change it. If there's something you really want, work for it. So if somebody does a card reading for you and little to nothing happens, of course that person could just be really bad at reading the cards, but I think you'll know. If that person was able to pull very accurate information from you just by reading the cards, but nothing he or she projected happened, that doesn't mean that that doesn't mean that they were a bad reader. That just means whatever they projected, that scenario changed. But I think you'll understand when I say, when you get the reading, you're gonna know when that person is terrible. If that person cannot pull anything about you from the cards, they're probably not that good. If they can pull some information that they wouldn't otherwise know about you from the cards, but then their projections don't happen, they're probably still a good reader. The scenario probably changed. Okay. Do you think altars or altar tools are necessary in order to work magic? Yes and no. Okay? Up until a couple of years ago, I had a crappy job. I didn't have a lot of money, and I was living on my own, so I had the food and the rent and everything, the bills came first. I didn't have any tools to speak of. I had a couple of crystals, I had an altar cloth, I had a couple of candles. I didn't really have anything to speak of. The most important tools that you have are on your body. You have a tool here, you have a tool here, you have your voice, that can be a tool. When you don't have access to tools, or if you're young and you're living in a house and your parents just don't want you to do that, there are ways you could still work successful magic without tools. And all you have to do is visualize. All you need to do is use your finger. This can be a wand. You can point with it. You can draw in the air with it. So you don't need tools. When I was able to afford tools, I bought tools, because while you don't need them, most of us, not all of us, most of us need something tactile to use. Like Mr. Buddha. I'd say that he is a tool. Yes, he's a statue. He sits on my nightstand. He's a statue. You don't need statues. You can substitute, print off pictures, or draw something yourself. But having the physical thing really helps, because we're humans. We're animals. We like to touch things. We like to be able to see things and touch things. So it depends. If you're really talented, like 2% of people are, you don't need tools to do any of this stuff. If you're like most of us, which you probably are, having the few important tools are going to help. They're going to help you direct the energy. I mean, my finger can work. I don't need an athame because I have, or a wand because I have my finger. That's the only tool I could go without. Everything else I need to be able to use. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. This can still point to the moon. This can still draw circles and make stars and spirals. But we like to be able to have the tool to focus the energy to use. Because we're people. We like toys. We like tools. So, I don't know the context really of the question. Altar tools. Not all tools are used for altars. So they're not necessary. If you can't afford them, or if you can't have them in your house, just practice with what you have. You have your finger, you have your third eye, you have your voice. Yeah. And you don't need them to work magic at all. I know that goes without saying, but you don't need them. They're just good to have. It's like a TV. You don't need the TV, but damn it, it's really, really nice to have. Okay, the last one. This person's been looking for a cauldron. She needs to know, does it matter what type of cauldron it is? Some people have said yes, some people have said no. Is it better to wait and allow the god and goddess to bring one into this person's life, or should the person just purchase one online? This is an interesting question because I can almost tie it in with the altar tools question. Do you need to wait to find the perfect tool or the perfect item? It always depends on the item. This is my cauldron. It's dirty. It's full of herbs. This cost me $15 at the shop down the road. This is one of the last tools I ever bought. I actually bought this like a year ago. Not because I didn't want it or didn't need it, but because I don't need this. I don't need a cauldron to burn something in. I was using like a decorative wooden bowl. Not real wood, or else it would have caught fire. It was one of those cheap Walmart bowls. I was using that to burn my stuff in. That was my cauldron for a couple of years. And I just bought that off the shelf. Even if you're buying something at Walmart or Target or a yard sale, as long as it's going to suit the purpose, you can use a bowl instead of a cauldron. But in the case of you're buying literal actual tools, I try to gauge the importance of the tool. The cauldron is a receptacle. Yes, it's an important symbol. The cauldron of Caradwyn, it's the womb of the goddess. It goes in the center of my altar. I don't know if it goes in the center of your altar, but it goes in the center of my altar. So it does have symbolic importance. But what it is physically, it doesn't really matter. I was using a bowl for a while. Bowl's not a cauldron, a bowl is a bowl. This is a cauldron. So it all depends on the importance of that tool for you. Now for my receptacles, like my cauldron, I have a couple of bowls on my altar that hold various things. My candle holders, the receptacle items, the things that house the other tools, I don't worry about too much. All I care about is that I can afford it and that I like how it looks. I would honestly have preferred the big, like $30 altar with the runes carved into it and like the braided handle. I would have loved it. But I couldn't afford it at the time, and I didn't need the fancy cauldron for what I was using it for. Now, and the other thing is, again, depending on how important the tool is to you and what you're going to really use it for, that to me is going to depend on whether you buy it because I need it, I can afford this one, or whether you wait to find the one that screams at you and says, "Buy me!" When I bought, this, not the necklace, I bought the stone for my husband. No store around us carried this aquamarine. I had to buy it online. Generally, I wait. I like to hold the crystal in my hand. I like to feel it, examine the colors, the size, how it fits in my hand. If I'm going to make a wand with it, I need to know how big it is, and I need to know what it's going to look like. In this case, where I couldn't find it in any stores, I kind of broke my own rule. But he was only going to use it as a necklace. He wasn't going to use it for magic. All I needed was a little aquamarine stone for my husband. I wasn't going to worry about what came in the mail. As long as it was aquamarine, of course. In the cases of my candles, I'm only going to burn them. I like the ones that smell. Okay, so I have to suggest you guys mainemadestuff.com. Maine as in the state of Maine with an E. M-A-I-N-E. Mainemadestuff.com. This is relevant. I kind of like this brand. If I'm going to buy candles, aside from the little 4-inch basic chime candles, I'm going to buy these candles. Do you know what I mean? Yes, it's the brand, but these candles are made at the person's house. They're amazing. Oh my god, and they smell so good. Do yourself a favor. Oh, and they come in these too. So, in the case of candles and the receptacles, like the cauldron, and in the case of the aquamarine, I like that brand of candle. There are certain things that I'm just going to get because I like it. However, in the case of the tools that are going to house energy that are kind of a reflection on the work you do, then it matters. I worked with the pendulum for the first few years of my active practice. The pendulum no longer works for me. And there's a difference. That my first pendulum was a rose quartz pendulum with rainbow chakra beads on the pendulum part. This is now the pendulum I work with. It is very different from a rainbow chakra rose quartz pendulum. The first one I looked at in the store when I was 19 and I said, oh my god, it's colorful, I love it. I didn't practice with it first. It really never worked for me. This one, however, worked for me. I'm not a Norse pagan, but you know, I'll take a Thor's hammer any day. This one works for me. I waited 6 months to find this one. This one houses my energy. This one I need to be able to work with it. I don't need to work with a cauldron. Really, I don't. So the things that are going to house your energy, that are going to affect your work, that are going to affect your energy and your power or whatever, that's when I wait. So the pendulum, the tarot cards I waited for. I waited till I saw a deck that shouted at me, and then I played with it first to make sure that I could work with it. And then this guy, I made this jewelry. So I waited till I had the right piece of quartz before I made the jewelry. And then in the case of my mother bought me this. I wear it all the time. Even though I wasn't there to pick it out, my mother picked it out for me. So already, it's already got important energy into it. She's not pagan, and the gods probably weren't like, okay, there's 10 million Triskelies in this store. I'm going to point you to the right one. It wasn't a case of that. It was a case of it's important to me because it's my favorite symbol, and my mother picked it out. So, I hope that helps. I kind of put the altar tools question in with the cauldron question, but if the cauldron is just going to be what you burn your herbs and your incense in, it doesn't need to be something that you wait to find. You can just pick one up. Because like I said, the candle holders, the cauldron, yes, the cauldron especially, it's an important symbol, but this doesn't really house any of my energy like the pendulum does. They're both very important, but they're used for different things. This, I just bought a basic one because I just needed a basic one. If you're waiting to find, it's up to you. If you want to wait and find the right one that speaks to you, go right ahead. But in my opinion, these types of tools I wait for. I wait until it works. I wait to see if I can play with it, if it's going to work for me. Even if, not my favorite stone, but it works. This, it's not really going to hold the energy that this does. So, they're both important, but they're used for different things. What else was there? So yeah, crystals, like I said. With the exception of the aquamarine, because it wasn't going to be used for magic, and I couldn't find it in a store. Otherwise, I'm going to wait. I have a bunch of crystals and stones, all of which I was able to play with. I was able to feel it. So yeah, you have to make your own judgment on those. So, but that's just how I would do it. I think that was it, though. Yeah. So I hope that works for everybody. I would love to get more questions. Honestly, if you guys want me to clarify any of the questions I covered, or if you have new questions entirely, I would love to hear from you. So, enjoy. Bye-bye.